Welcome to the CatchTheTurn Futures Trading Daily Market Recap, June 27, 2013. Let's begin by taking a look at the crude oil market. And here's a 60-minute chart on crude, which opened higher today, is currently approximately 97.12 on the session. And on the hourly chart, the long signal has been valid since about 2 in the morning. Price pulled back to approximately 95.60s, never broke Cobra, and continued higher up to 97 through the morning session. Market force is confirming a long signal and momentum to the upside, and our high and low indicator was also showing a lot of buying pressure coming in on the last 3 candles. Moving over to the 610 tick chart, we go back and look at 10:30 this morning, about an hour after the New York session opened. We can see that there was 2 valid buy entry setups. Cobra did confirm a long price was closing above the Cobra indicator, and the ocean was also confirming the uptrend. So your first entry would have been here approximately 10:24. Moving over to the 233 tick chart. Let's see. It's this 233 tick. You can see right approximately where this 610 confirmed. Your 233 tick also had a buy signal a few bars earlier, which would have been ignored until your larger time frame confirmed. And then here we had our first confirmation to enter the position. Market force was increasing to the upside, the yellow bars, and the high and low indicator was also positive with its blue bars. The CTT stops indicator was also trailing nicely behind as price confirmed the entry, approximately 96.09, and price continued higher, never testing the lows, never testing your entry area. Your stop could have been placed about 95.90, giving you about a 10-cent, 8 to 10 cent stop, which is more than suitable for the crude market. Usually they're 15 to 20 cents. So in this case, because the entry was so close to the swing low, we were able to use a tighter stop on this. And in this case, the trade paid out approximately, let's see if your entry was here at 9. $0.20 on the first swing, and then you would have either scaled out, left 1 or 2 lots, depending on if you're trading multiple contracts or not. You could have left part of your position on, and as it continued higher, and at the end of this run, it paid out approximately $0.40 on whatever you had remaining of your original position. So 20 cents on the first part of your trade and 40 cents potentially on the remainder of your trade as you trailed your stop either right below the stops indicator here, these green squares, or if you kept your order right around your entry area with a stop right above break even as you took profit on your first position. Price did continue moving higher, so you could have looked for either another trade or you could have called it a day. 40 cents on crude is very, very good. Usually you don't get these type of swings on a daily basis, and that was pretty early during the session. You don't want to trade during the lunch session. Here about 11, as you can see, price started consolidating sideways and didn't really break out again until 11:20 before moving a little bit higher. So that was the crude oil market. Let's move over to the Nasdaq, which also is positive for the day. Excuse me. All right, here we go, 9:30 open. Approximately 29.03 3/4. You waited the first 30 minutes to look for a possible setup. Your first confirmation actually came in about 15 minutes after the open. The lower ocean, you can see price touched 29.0250 on your 610 tick, and the only hesitation you probably would have had is the market force indicator was declining, even though prices were going higher. So there's a bit of a divergence there. However, it's still a valid signal, and market force many times will come down to the zero line and then reverse higher. So that's like a zero line reject. Here you have your high and low indicator showing some selling coming in. So that did kind of conflict with your entry signal long. But Cobra did not break. Price tested and moved higher. And on your 233 tick, your entry was confirmed as well at 9:45. And on this 9:45, your entry long would have been confirmed here. Your entry could have been placed right above the break of that bar, with your stop below the swing low at 29.0150. So you're using about 2 to 3 point stop on that. If you want to use a tighter stop, it could be at the low of this candle, 29.02 and that would have given you approximately 2.25 point stop. So tighter your stop, the more likely you are to get taken out or chopped out. But in this case, price never tested below, never tested your stop area, and continued higher. As it moved in your favor, first target would have been minimum 1-to-1 from your entry point, so that would have been approximately 29.06 half, which it reached very quickly, about 9:48, so a total of 3 minutes until you hit profit on the first part of your trade there. You can see there's 2 3/4 points, and then the second swing, if you have multiple contracts and you're scaling out, your second swing would have taken you out with 5 3/4 points on that whole swing before price actually reversed. As it came down here, you would have either trailed your stop or kept your stop at break even. If you trailed along your last order where you would have dragged your stop to was probably 29.0875 or 29.09. So it did come back to test that area, take you out before continuing lower. And as we can see, our bias is to the upside. So we would have been ignoring these short signals, even though they did pay out nicely. Let's go back over here. So that was in the first hour of the session. Very good, very nice trading, and those two setups just worked out really clean. Move along the time session here. Approximately 10:05, we had another entry. Let me pull up the tick chart again. Show you the setup there. Okay, we were at an extreme on the market force indicator to the downside. As you can see, the bars were all red on the small time frame. So let's go over to our larger time frame here. And as you can see, market force again declined, showing sellers coming in. They could not take it lower, however, and was quickly reversed back to the upside. So in your first potential entry area here at 10:05, 10:06, you would have taken a break above Cobra, but there's only one candle confirming. So the way to do that is to just place an order above this one, in which case after this candle closed, this candle came back and tested. So it's almost a bearish engulfing pattern here on this, and our high and low indicator was selling. Our high and low averages indicator was still positive, however, indicating that buyers were still in control of this, and we got another shot at it here. We put in somewhat of a double bottom, not quite. So now you extend this trend line here for your entry. We got another buy signal here with the CTT averages indicator, and you can see here on your entry chart, you also got a signal one candle earlier on the 233 tick, so that would have been your entry at 29.07 quarter. Market force was still consolidating, but it finally did break out approximately 3 candles into that move. And our high and low indicator did confirm buyers were here. So buy entry was definitely confirmed. Prices were moving higher. And just show you how you scaled out of that one. 29, your entry would have been anywhere from 29.08 to 29.0850. Let's take the more conservative entry and say you got it at 29.0850, where price did kind of pull back against you almost a point. Your stop would always have to be at least minimum 4 ticks away, but usually it would be at the beginning of the signal candle. So it would be down here at 29.07. So about a point and a half. Price did not take out your stop in this case, and your move here gave you on a first swing, never pulled back, so the only reason you would have scaled out is on this first retest down approximately 3 points on the first trade, and then if you scaled out and left some contracts on for a potential runner, you're looking at approximately for that next retest of the swing, could have been anywhere from 29.15 to potentially, so that's 6 3/4 points, or on the final swing where it would have retested and Cobra broke to the downside, 8.5 points. So those were all the potential areas you would have traded on the Nasdaq contract. Very nice, very clean. The system kept you in the trade. Cobra never broke here. It flashed one candle. That's not confirmed. We just got another re-entry here. You can also take profit when you get a conflicting CTT averages signal. These arrows, as you can see, they appear even when you're looking for specific setups. So our bias based on the hourly chart was to the upside. We knew they were taking the futures higher. After the open, there was positive news across the board. The S&P, the Nasdaq, all the indexes were moving higher. So the Dow. So that being said, you're going to ignore your sell signals. But what you can do with these is, if you're in a trade long and price starts going in your favor, and these arrows do show up partway through your trade, just use them to take profit, potential areas to exit a trade. Okay. And as you can see, we retested about half a point, continuing higher all the way up to 29.18 on the swing. And that was the first hour of the session before consolidating. Remember, 11:30, you don't want to be trading around here. This is all lunchtime for the East Coast traders and the guys in Chicago. So right now, they should just be getting back from lunch very shortly. Prices are still consolidating in this channel. The channel, as you can see, our ocean indicator is sideways, so there isn't much going on there. And I probably wouldn't be taking any more trades at this point. But if you took any of these trades, even if you only caught 1 or 2 of these and not every single one of the entire move, you did very well today on the NQ. Let's go over to the ES contract. Okay. So we know the market was up today. On the futures side, let me just see if I can. 1 second here. Need to load some more bar data. All right. Let's move back here to 9:30. Start at the open of the session, and our bias was to the outside at the open this morning. So let's get over here between 9 and 10. So as you can see, we pulled back in the overnight, and then right into the open, we were pushing higher, around 1600s, 1598. So we're going to be looking for long setups. And let's go over to 9:30 this morning. And we can see at the open here, we did have a buy signal. If you don't like to trade the first few minutes of the open, I would recommend waiting until about 9:30, 9:45. So let's say you skip on this first part, even though there was valid buy signals. And came in here about 9:45. We had a little pullback here, consolidation. And the easiest way to identify these areas is just to draw some lines here. And this helps you isolate the price action. It kind of makes sense of it all. The other thing you can do is I like to draw rectangles to envelope my price. And here we had a buy signal. It broke out up here, so you can either take it at the breakout or the next candle. So in this case, the next candle opened higher and pulled back. So some people prefer the pullback method. In this case, you can move over to your 233 tick chart, and we had an entry, one candle here before the breakout, and the market force on the larger time frame had not confirmed yet. So the way you would have done this is probably would have ignored this first signal. Right, price moved up about a point, pulled back, and gave you your entry. Not here, but right here. So you need to wait for the price action to confirm and close higher. And as you can see, Cobra here was red. The price bars were closing below the Cobra. So you wouldn't take an entry until price closed back above it to confirm that we're continuing higher. Your stop would have been placed approximately $16.0875. Your entry was $16.0950. So that's about 3/4 to a point, which is a very reasonable stop for this contract, as we know that ES has to pull back quite a bit and very often. So it came back, never tested your stop area after your entry. It came back, pushed up to 16.10.5. You could have taken some off there and then left some on for potentially more. That's 3/4 of a point there on the first trade. The came back to about 16.09 before continuing higher. So on whatever position you had as a runner. And you can see your stops indicator just kind of followed nicely. So there's no reason for you to exit this trade until approximately price came back, pushed up here. If you weren't trailing your stop up along with this, your last stop would have been probably right above break even. Or you could also put your orders trailing along with your stops indicator here. As it pushed up to 16.11, 16.12, you would have moved your stop up with it to about 16.11. So it did come back and take you out approximately here if you did trail. As price starts reversing, you're thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to give back all of it, and you're up about 2 points. So you're going to take as much as you can out of that move. Price did close below the Cobra here, letting you know, hey, there are some sellers coming in, and this may be a good area to take profit. The reason here you didn't close out early is because you had this right here. So if you were trailing your stop, your last stop order was probably around 16.10.50 or 16.10 If it was a 16.10 you did not get taken out of your trade, but if you had it up at 16.10.50, you may have been taken out for about a point total. So it was very choppy in the early part. That's right about 10 minutes into the trade. So this all happened relatively quickly before price reversed and came down. Let's move forward through this, see if there were any other setups. Okay. So your next setup was approximately price closing above Cobra at 10:06 a.m., which you can see on your smaller time frame is right about here. And market force indicator is still red here, but that's okay. If you have a confirmation, you have price closing above your Cobra indicator, and if you want all your filters to confirm, then you would not have taken this entry, because your higher time frame market force was still very negative, so you would have waited. And this is where it finally did break to the upside. So here you had an entry confirmation, but price was below the Cobra line, so you would have waited for price to close back above it, and it never did. And then here you go, price came back above it on the higher time frame, setting up the signal right about here. Okay, and let's see how that panned out. The entry was right about, any pullbacks on there. In here in this area, 1609 again. Okay. And your stop would have been about 3/4 to a point below. So that would have been about 1608. 1.5. Prior swing, you can use the prior swing low if you want to give it a little more. That'd be about point and a quarter, or almost 2 points. And then price continued higher. First profit target was reached. 1 point into your move. Three-quarters there. If your entry was 1609, and that was approximately 2 minutes. And the remainder of your position, as price continued in your direction, you would ignore these arrows here because they are popping up quite frequently. Again, we're looking at a tick chart, so you're going to get quite a few of these signals just because of the settings we have. If I slow down the settings on the CTT average indicator, there'll be a lot less arrows, but will also keep you out of a lot of trades. So if you're going to be scalping or doing short-term intraday, these settings work pretty well, as long as you're following the directional bias of the larger time frame. And price did grind up higher eventually. It took a little bit to get going before paying out approximately about 2 3/4 points by 10:30, and it did pay out a few more. So it paid out a couple more points, another point there. So total, you could have got 3 to 4 points out of the trade before price finally kind of topped out up here and reversed. So let's go over, see where that was, and that's right about here. And prices did start consolidating, 1040, still a little early, but you would have been done for the day there on the ES contract. Okay, so that covers, we covered about 3 to 4 markets there, and showed you potential setups using all the indicators we have. We have the market force, the high and low indicator, as well as our CTT Cobra indicator, which is the main indicator that you'll use for your trading on our platform. It does a nice job of keeping you in these trades when there is some choppy price action and sticking with them. We like to use the multi-time frame approach of looking at a higher time frame for possible setups, and then when the higher time frame confirms the direction, we'll start to narrow it down into a smaller chart in order to find an actual entry for a trade. All right, guys, well, I want to thank you for coming in, and if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the room. And if not, we will be holding futures webinars Mondays and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern. and invite you all to come. Thank you very much.